is one of the biggest challenges organizations face when it comes to strategic storytelling and how to fix it. The problem? Too many stories in too many places. I hear this often in my work with business leaders. It's not that they don't have stories, it's that the stories are scattered all over. The salespeople have stories, the customer service people have stories, the customers have stories. There are as many stories as there are departments, as there are current and past clients, customers, or patients, or members, however you want to call them. There are as many stories as there are products and services and people on your team, and it is the sheer overwhelming number of possible stories, not the lack, just waiting to be told, that is what leads to storytelling paralysis in their organization. And even if they were to implement a strategic storytelling initiative, that wouldn't go very far because everyone is busy with their other responsibilities. The heads of sales isn't going to do anything with the stories. They're busy selling stuff. The chief of customer experience isn't going to curate stories because they're busy focusing on the customer. The list goes on, and what do you suppose happens with all of those amazing stories? You guessed it. Nothing. Sound familiar? I bet it does. This is a fundamental strategic storytelling stopping point for organizations of all sizes and in any industry. Too often, the wealth of leverageable stories in an organization is quarantined within individual silos, which is why more and more companies are turning to this solution: a chief storytelling officer. From New York City to San Francisco, from Orlando to Portland, Chicago, and into Europe, more and more companies are naming a chief storytelling officer to their C-suite roster. A person whose sole responsibility is to crisscross all departments in search of tellable stories by hiring or appointing one person whose sole job is to crisscross the organizational divide, curate the stories, and then redistribute them to the relevant parties. You unlock the untapped potential of the stories that are otherwise just laying dormant. One thing, however, I want to make clear is that the CSO is different from the CMO, the Chief Marketing Officer. Typically, the CMO leads a team that gets messages, and yes, sometimes those messages are stories, out into the world. Like it or not, that job is more about strategy than it is about actual content. The purpose of a Chief Storytelling Officer is to seek out, wrangle, craft, disseminate, and coordinate those unleveraged stories hiding in the corners of the organization, to drag them out into the light and share them with the other members of the company who can use them to make the whole business better, to give those stories to the Chief Marketing Officer. If you own a business or are a leader in an organization that doesn't have a Chief Storytelling Officer, consider it. And if you don't have it in your budget to hire one, tap one of your most curious team members and discuss the need for this important work. Have them dedicate a piece of their day to identifying the stories happening throughout the various layers and levels of your company so that they may be strategically retold. It's true. Storytelling can feel overwhelming. Getting someone on your team to help could be the most important hire you make this year.